What has been the role of human rights discourses in the internationalization of indigenous peoples' issues? What has prompted the creation of an international indigenous identity and the transformation of local movements into a global one? How did the dynamics between indigenous peoples and states change over time? Human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, whatever our nationality, place of residence, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, or any other status. We are all equally entitled to our human rights without discrimination. These rights are all interrelated, interdependent, and indivisible. Universal human rights are often expressed and guaranteed by law in the form of treaties, customary international law, general principles, and other sources of international law. International human rights law lays down obligations of states to act in certain ways or to refrain from certain acts in order to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms of individuals or groups. We should underline that it is through the human rights angle that indigenous issues received international attention. Why? Because human rights bring out a political edge that catches states' attention that other approaches do not necessarily get. The internationalization of indigenous peoples movement saw the birth of a new awareness among indigenous peoples and their communities, an awareness of their indigeneity, quote unquote, as part of an identity and a category at the international level. For indigenous peoples, the UN therefore became both a side of channeling their complaints of human rights violations and also for articulating their aspirations for the future as indigenous peoples. So what was the change over time? The ethos of decolonization, the era of decolonization, highly impacted state behavior towards the emerging indigenous peoples movement. In the 1970s, many gross violations of human rights were brought to international human rights bodies, such as the mass killings in Guatemala. At the time, states viewed this issue primarily as a humanitarian one of kindness, so to speak, to what they saw as disappearing civilizations in the process of assimilation. One could therefore see some permissiveness in UN processes on the part of states. That is, states allowed the birth of exceptional, unprecedented, and extensive participatory procedures for indigenous peoples, which in turn increased the numbers of indigenous representatives at the UN as well as their overall political impact. I call this corrective exceptionalism, namely the behavior of states with the implicit awareness that historic injustices towards indigenous peoples had to be corrected, hence corrective exceptionalism. By 1993, states lost this relative softness in their approach, as the balance of power and international solidarity changed the scenery at the UN. Indigenous peoples had become a power to reckon with. By this time, the indigenous peoples movement was strong, and the draft declaration on the rights of indigenous peoples secured clear language regarding indigenous peoples' rights to self-determination, as well as the right to lands, territories, and resources. From the Latin American region, especially, this increased political awareness combined with persisting exclusion created deep social and political tensions. Let us recall the reappearance of the Zapatistas in 1994 and the mysterious then Subcomandante Marcos in Mexico, whose supreme commander was a council of indigenous elders. So where are we now? The vigorous and dynamic interface between indigenous peoples and the United Nations has had at least three clear impacts. First, an awareness of indigenous peoples' concerns and recognition of indigenous peoples' human rights. Second, recognition of indigenous peoples' invaluable contribution to humanity's cultural diversity and heritage, not least through their traditional knowledge, And third, awareness of the need to address the problems of Indigenous peoples through specific policies, laws, and budgets, with the full, effective, and self-determined participation of Indigenous peoples themselves. The greatest challenge posed today stems from conflict over the land and natural resources of Indigenous peoples' ancestral territories. This is a war waged by the dominant development paradigms, by corporations, especially by the extractive industry, and creates an accentuated emergency for many Indigenous peoples' well-being. Will states and non-Indigenous societies realize that this emergency concerns us all, and it's not just about them? This is today's most pressing question. It is a moral, an existential, and a human rights question.